The young Caesar's escape, defying a dictator, 82 BCE. Rome, 82 BCE. The Republic was bleeding. Streets that once echoed with law and order now rang with fear and betrayal. And in the middle of it all was a young man. Barely 18 years old, noble by blood, but hunted by the most powerful man in Rome. His name Gaius Julius Caesar. This is the story of his first great trial. The moment that tested his courage. The moment that nearly cost him his life. Chapter 1, A City in Chains. The city of Rome in 82 BCE was not the same Rome Caesar had known as a child. The marble temples still stood. The senators still wore their white togas. The statues of gods still watched over the forum. But the people were different. There was fear in their eyes. Whispers filled the alleys. Doors were bolted even in daylight. Because one man now ruled the Republic, Lucius Cornelius Sulla. Sulla, a general turned dictator, had returned from war and taken control by force. His enemies were hunted down. Their names were posted on public walls, the infamous proscription lists. If your name was listed, you were already dead. Bounty hunters roamed the streets. Anyone could turn you in. Anyone could kill you. This was the world young Caesar was growing into, a world where loyalty could cost your life. Chapter 2, Bloodlines and Marriage. Gaius Julius Caesar was born into a noble family, the Julii, proud but not powerful. His father had died when Caesar was still a boy. He was raised mostly by his mother, Aurelia, a strong and wise Roman woman. At 17, Caesar made a bold choice. He married Cornelia, the daughter of Lucius Cornelius Sulla, one of Sulla's greatest enemies. It was a marriage of love, yes, but also of politics. Cornelia's father had been a powerful leader in the populist faction, the side that supported reforms for the people, and stood against the old elite. Sulla, on the other hand, led the Optimates, Rome's conservative, aristocratic class. And now Sulla had won. He was dictator. He controlled everything: the Senate, the courts, the military. So when Caesar chose to keep Cornelia as his wife, it wasn't just a family decision. It was a challenge to Sulla himself. Chapter 3, The Demand. The order came like a thunderbolt. One morning, a messenger arrived at Caesar's home. He carried a scroll sealed with Sulla's mark, the symbol of dictatorship. The message was clear. Divorce Cornelia. Immediately. Or face the consequences. Caesar stood silent, holding the scroll in his hands. His mother, Aurelia, looked at him with worry. To obey would mean betraying the woman he loved. To refuse would mean war with the most dangerous man in Rome. The choice was his. And Caesar chose defiance. He refused the order. He would not betray Cornelia. He would not bend to tyranny. Even though he was just a young man, with no army, no power, and no wealth, Caesar stood his ground. And Sulla was furious. Chapter 4, Hunted. Caesar's name was not yet famous. He was not yet a general, not yet a ruler. But now, he had made an enemy of the most powerful man alive. Sulla stripped him of his inheritance. He took away Caesar's priesthood, a position the young man had earned. Soldiers were sent to seize him. But Caesar was already gone. By the time the soldiers reached his home, Caesar had vanished into the dark corners of Rome and beyond. He was now a fugitive. He had to move constantly. He slept in stables, barns, and hidden corners of villages. He wore common clothes, kept his head down, and trusted no one. Sometimes, to pass through checkpoints, he had to bribe corrupt officials. At one gate, a greedy commander refused him passage. Caesar, desperate, offered everything he had, even the golden ring on his finger. It was barely enough. Chapter 5, Mercy and Power. Back in Rome, Sulla was told of Caesar's flight. He was advised to let the boy go, that Caesar was young, foolish, harmless. But Sulla was no fool. He looked at those gathered around him and said something strange and chilling. "In that young man, I see many a Marius." Referring to his old enemy, the legendary general Gaius Marius. He feared what Caesar could become. Others begged him for mercy on Caesar's behalf, family members, allies, even powerful priests. At last, perhaps out of pressure or boredom, Sulla relented. He removed Caesar's name from the kill list. But his words remained. "Let him live, for now. But mark my words. In this boy, there are many Mariuses. One day, he will bring ruin to the nobles." Chapter 6, Return and Reflection. After months in hiding, Caesar returned to Rome alive, but changed. He had faced death. He had stood against tyranny. He had lost wealth, position, safety. But he had kept his honor. More than that, he had kept his wife, his name, and his pride. These early scars would shape him. They taught him that politics was dangerous. That power was fragile. That loyalty had a price. But they also taught him something else. That he, even as a young man, could defy a dictator and survive. He would never forget that. Chapter 7, A Quiet Flame. Though he had escaped death, Caesar could not yet rebuild his life. Rome remained dangerous, and Sulla's shadow stretched far. Caesar kept a low profile. He avoided public debates and political conversations. But inwardly, a quiet flame began to burn, a sense of destiny, a feeling that he had survived for a greater purpose. He spent his days studying history, oratory, military campaigns. He devoured them all. He listened to the speeches of old masters, and watched how senators argued in the forum. In secret, he began writing speeches of his own. Not to deliver, not yet. But to prepare. He began shaping the man he would one day become. And though he stayed away from open politics, the people had not forgotten him. They remembered the young man who defied the dictator, who stayed loyal to his wife, who risked his life for honor. Even in silence, Caesar's legend was growing. Chapter 8, After the Storm. In 79 BCE, the storm finally passed. Lucius Cornelius Sulla, old and worn by war and power, resigned from his dictatorship. It was an unprecedented act. Rome exhaled cautiously. The city was still broken, and the wounds of civil war remained open, but the terror of Sulla's rule had come to an end. And with that, Julius Caesar stepped out of the shadows. He was no longer just a fugitive son of a rebellious noble. He was a survivor, a man who had faced Rome's darkest days and walked away alive. Friends and distant relatives who had once avoided him now welcomed him again. Caesar, though still cautious, began to appear more in public. He visited temples, attended ceremonies, and slowly reconnected with his peers. The flame inside him no longer flickered quietly. It burned with purpose. He knew now, survival had not been the end of his story. It was only the beginning.